Hey YouTube, Joe Boy here. After the last chapter of One Piece dropped, chapter 842, there's been a lot of discussion about Doflamingo and Cracker and who is stronger. Now, this conversation actually dates back a little bit before this because we saw Luffy reveal Gear 4 first against Doflamingo and then use it again versus Cracker, so you can kind of compare the two fighters. But now that Cracker has been defeated, and in a completely different way than Doflamingo was defeated, a lot of people are throwing in their 2 cents about which fighter was stronger. So I'd like to add my voice into this conversation. Initially, I didn't really want to tackle this because honestly, Cracker and Doflamingo are very similar strength-wise from what we're given in the story, and there's points towards Cracker and there's points towards Doflamingo. Additionally, power level discussions comparing two characters that will never fight honestly sometimes seem pointless to me. Each battle is pretty unique, and oftentimes it's really impossible to determine which two random characters that have never directly fought is stronger. However, I decided that it was worth doing a video on just because it would allow me to discuss further the fight versus Cracker and exactly what Luffy did, and so I think there's other points to add to it just besides, which character is stronger. But the main topic of this video will be which character, in my opinion, I believe is stronger, Doflamingo or Cracker. But as always guys, this is just my opinion. I take the facts given to me and I formulate my own ideas about what is the truth and what isn't the truth. But you're welcome to disagree with me, but I would prefer it if you watch the entire video before you determine whether I'm right or wrong. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this. And so firstly, I'm going under the assumption that Cracker, as of chapter 842, was defeated by Luffy, and by no means do I think that this is 100% no question guaranteed. The main reason I don't want to say that is because I don't want to be wrong and then have that come back to bite me. I think that it is by far way more likely that Cracker is defeated than not, but I'll leave open the option that's possible that Cracker has not been defeated, but I just don't believe it. Although the fight versus Cracker lasted 11 hours, far longer than the fight versus Doflamingo, it appears as though Luffy really only got one attack in on Cracker himself. One attack and one KO. Honestly, a Yonko commander getting one-shotted by a rookie is just fucking disgraceful, is what it is. Now, obviously, I still have a lot of respect for Cracker, but the fact that it only took one attack really to take him down is definitely a point in favor of Doflamingo. But at the same time, this fight lasted 11 hours, which is a point towards Cracker being greater than Doflamingo. But I thought that it was funny that Cracker getting one-shotted was a surprise to a lot of big YouTubers and One Piece followers that made videos talking about the fight, how it was anticlimactic, how they were supposed to be fighting a Yonko commander, and for him to be defeated at this point would just be really disappointing. And I would like to disagree based on the facts. This is something that I saw coming, which is, a commenter actually put it in a really cool way. Cracker is a glass cannon. He possesses amazing fighting power. He can do a lot of damage, but if you get a shot on him, it seemed really likely that he would break. And I say this because as of a couple chapters ago, he revealed offhand his fear or his hatred for pain. And what this suggested to me at the time, and is even supported at this point, even though it may not be properly addressed, which is that the reason that Cracker probably was defeated in one hit is because Cracker isn't used to taking a beating. He spends his entire life avoiding pain, and so he hasn't built up those natural endurances for taking a beating. And so one hit and he's knocked out because he just doesn't ever take any hits. But this leads into Cracker's greatest strength, which is that Cracker doesn't take many hits because he is an overpowered Yonko commander. He has the skills and powers necessary to, at all points in time, avoid taking a beating. And if you can't actually get a shot on Cracker, which is incredibly difficult to do, then you won't ever defeat Cracker. So all things considered, Luffy's strategy in facing Cracker was 1 part lucky and 2 parts genius, which is that literally, Luffy selected the one course of action that was absolutely vital in beating Cracker. Remember, as I have just said, you actually have to get a shot on Cracker's main body in order to defeat him, which means getting around his biscuit shields and then catching him off guard. And that's exactly what Luffy was able to do, but in order to do this, he had to properly set it up. It's not so easy to catch Cracker off guard just using the strategy that he used versus Doflamingo and going Gear 4th. I believe that Bound Man, or as many people want me to call him, Bounce Man, would have been able to defeat Cracker if Luffy was able to get to Cracker's main body using the form. But that is the trick, that is the difficulty. And I don't think that Cracker would have allowed that to take place before Gear 4th would have ran out. Luffy would have lost his haki and then lost the battle. So instead of going this route, which would have been extremely dangerous even if Luffy had gone King Kong Gun, there is no guarantee that he actually would have been able to land a strike on Cracker. He chose a much smarter route, which was the battle of attrition, which is that he fought and then he ate, and then eating regained his haki so that he could run around and then go Gear 4th again and prolong the battle. Prolong it to the point to where Cracker got frustrated with the length of the battle. It finally got to the point to where he said outright, well, now I'm going to finish this battle. And then he did something extremely risky. He attacked Luffy in a Gear 4th form in which he didn't know the properties of the form, being overconfident, thinking that he was just going to end it. However, that rebounded and backfired on him completely. He attacked Tank Man head on, thinking that he was going to deliver the final blow, and found out that his attack had no effect on Tank Man, and allowed Luffy the opportunity that he needed all along in order to defeat Cracker, which was a shot on his main body. So Cracker attacked Tank Man, was deflected, shot back into his ultra hard biscuit soldiers, and then knocked out because, as I've stated, he is a glass cannon. Strong attack, no defense, and thus he was knocked out. So with all this being said, I don't think that Luffy would have been able to approach this fight the same way that he approached the Doflamingo fight, which is that versus Doflamingo, all Luffy needed was really to get shots in on Doflamingo's body repeatedly. But with Cracker, all you need is one shot, one very difficult shot to get in. And so in order to properly set that up, it required time for the battle to last 11 hours, make Cracker impatient, and then allow for that opening to get the shot in. But since this shot is so difficult to actually get in, I personally believe that Cracker was a much more difficult opponent to fight for Luffy than Doflamingo. It also required Cracker to lower his defenses and allow for that shot to happen, which is something that Luffy couldn't really control. He had to wait for Cracker to do that. And there's the possibility that if Cracker was a little less cocky, then that never would have happened in the first place, and Luffy would have never been able to beat Cracker. The only exception that I have for this is the possibility that Luffy could have just used King Kong Gun. That could have been all that was necessary to get a shot in on Cracker. He just chose not to use this because doing so would have handicapped him for the rest of the Whole Cake Island arc. And there's two other really important points that I want to throw in here, which is that firstly, Cracker is the owner of the biscuit fruit. So he's able to produce and manipulate biscuits, and this just so happens to be food, and just so happens to be really the thing that allows Luffy to continue fighting for the duration of the 11 hours. It allowed for Luffy to do this strategy of an 11-hour battle, because without all this food being present, also keeping in mind that Whole Cake Island is also made out of food, if this battle had taken place in another location, Luffy may not have been able to fight for 11 hours. And so when I compare fighters' strength, I like to compare them at baseline, not just like Luffy versus Enel, where Luffy happened to have the one devil fruit that would counter Enel's abilities. In this case, Luffy had the right abilities to counter Cracker's abilities because Cracker manipulates food. If this had taken place between two different fighters such as Doflamingo, Doflamingo definitely wouldn't have used the ability to eat Cracker's biscuits as a weapon. I don't see that being the case, and therefore that was an advantage that Luffy had over other fighters in fighting Cracker. So I don't think that other fighters would have had the advantage that Luffy had, being able to eat Cracker's biscuits and prolong the fight, and then potentially open up an opportunity to attack Cracker's main body. So therefore, I think Cracker would have been stronger versus other fighters. And my second point is, a lot of people would like to bring up the fact that Doflamingo actually managed to survive through Gear 4th long enough for Luffy's haki to run out. Cracker was not able to do this. And so if Luffy hadn't been saved by the residents of Dressrosa and Law, then it is assuredly true that Doflamingo would have defeated Luffy. But I honestly think that Cracker was about 5 minutes away from really maxing out Luffy and his ability to eat the biscuits and then prolong the fight. When Luffy finally defeated Cracker, we can see that in the panels before then, Luffy suggests that he was full, that he really couldn't eat much more at all, if any. And so if Cracker had waited any longer in order to give Luffy the opportunity to strike his main body, Cracker might actually have won that fight. So honestly, we almost got a repeat of the Doflamingo fight, in which it was almost true that Cracker got Luffy to the point to which he couldn't fight any longer and needed someone to save him. But fortunately for Luffy, Cracker decided at this moment to finally finish the battle, and then thus allowed for Luffy to deliver that one blow that he needed to Cracker's main body and end the fight. Additionally, another point that I forgot was that Luffy also had help in defeating Cracker with Nami. Nami used the Rain Tempo to weaken the effectiveness of his biscuit soldiers and his Devil Fruit ability, which is something that honestly, not a lot of fighters would have had that sort of advantage over Cracker's Devil Fruit, been able to produce rain spontaneously. Additionally, it's worth noting that Cracker also is hinted to have superior haki to Doflamingo, because Luffy specifically comments on just how good Cracker's haki is. So if you guys haven't surmised it at this point in time, given all this information, I do believe that Cracker is stronger than Doflamingo. If Doflamingo had faced Cracker, then Doflamingo would not have been able to beat him. But as with all power level discussions, this is flawed because we actually haven't seen them fight. And so it's definitely possible that Doflamingo possessed some sort of trump card, some attack or ability or strategy that would have allowed him to deliver a blow on Cracker. And if he had been able to do this, I believe that Doflamingo, just the same as Luffy, would have been able to defeat him. But since we haven't seen them fight and haven't seen Doflamingo strategize against Cracker, it's hard to say whether this is true or not. And my last point here, and this is in favor of Doflamingo, is that Cracker at the very least seems like a very poor strategizer when it comes to facing his opponent. This may be because he severely underestimated Luffy and really didn't believe him possible of losing. Still, we should know that Nami really gave Luffy the ability to fight Cracker as long as he did. 11 hours of battle. This is because Nami intervened in the fight and made it rain. And so, really, a smart fighter in this situation would have just taken out Nami. This couldn't have been that hard to do. But Cracker never did it, which really is a point against Cracker being a very smart fighter. Doflamingo, on the other hand, was portrayed as a master strategizer, someone who really understood his opponent's strengths and weaknesses and was able to manipulate the battle because of that. And so I believe that if we were comparing the strengths and weaknesses of Cracker and Doflamingo, Doflamingo would have been a much better strategizer mid-battle, and therefore potentially could have beaten Cracker just based on this trait alone. But again, it's impossible to prove this since we have no direct evidence of a battle between these two characters. And so because of that, this evidence is far less persuasive than all the previous evidence, suggesting that just at baseline, just based on their strengths and weaknesses, Devil Fruit abilities, and tactics that were given, I believe Cracker to be the stronger character. But yeah guys, that's all I have for you for this video. Obviously, I'm not a big proponent of power level discussions, but I think that I wanted to talk about the fight versus Cracker and Luffy in depth to give y'all guys a better understanding of what exactly happened and why the battle played out the way that it did. I feel like that was important, and so at the very least, I hope you enjoyed the video from that perspective. So let me know what you think. Do you think that based on what I've said, that Cracker is stronger? And even if you do believe that Cracker is stronger, do you think that Doflamingo would win anyway? Or do you just think that Doflamingo is stronger? And if you do think this, please explain your reasoning in the comment section. Like the video if you like the video. I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. And as always, dudes, have a wonderful day.